Now, what are the things that make consideration or object unlawful? We know that unlawful object, contract is void. Unlawful consideration, contract is void. But what do you mean by unlawful? Yes, we also know that unlawful is something which is illegal. But law does not stop the definition of unlawful there. The law includes many other things in the definition of, in the ambit of unlawful. And those are immoral, any kind of immoral act. Now, immoral is something which is against the morals. Morals means the correct behavior, the righteousness, the rightful behavior, doing the correct thing. Now, renting your house to a prostitute, isn't that immoral? Should you rent your house to a prostitute to run a prostitution den, to run a brothel? No, you shouldn't. That is an immoral act. And any contract to rent your house to a prostitute will become void since the object here is immoral. So, unlawful includes something which is immoral. Again, asking somebody to give a divorce to his or her spouse, entering into an agreement that if you divorce your spouse, I'll marry you, I'll give you 10,000, or I'll give you 1 lakh, or I'll marry you. Such an agreement wherein you are giving a sum of money to a person if that person divorces his or her spouse, such an agreement is also immoral. You cannot ask a husband or a wife to give divorce to his spouse or her spouse. It doesn't feel right. Since it doesn't feel right, this act becomes immoral. It is not moral on your part to tell somebody to divorce his husband or wife. I mean, his wife or her husband. So such a contract also becomes void because this contract is based on immorality. And since it is immoral, it becomes unlawful. So unlawful includes immoral. The next is injury to person or property. Injury to person means harming a person, causing physical injury to a person. That may imply beating somebody. That may also imply killing somebody. So injury to person is easy to understand. What do you mean by injury to property? How can you injure a property? Yes, you can also injure a property. You can also destroy the property. You can go to somebody's house and destroy it. You can say that you have injured the property of a person. Or you put his house on fire. Again, you are injuring the property. Now, this is something which is tangible. People may also injure the intangible property. Now, what is intangible property? Property which cannot be seen, touched, or felt. Something like copyrights, a copyrighted material. We have movies, we have books, we have music. These are copyrighted things. You do not have the right to copy them and sell them. Only the person who holds the rights, who holds the copyrights, can make copies of them and sell them in the market. So if you buy a CD of a movie and then you make copies of it and sell in the market, this would be injuring the property of the person because you are hurting his property, hurting his income, hurting his cash. If you wouldn't have sold them, he would have sold them to them, and he would have earned money, he would have made property. So now you are injuring the property of other. You are causing him a loss. So this is also a kind of injuring the property. Again, getting somebody to do labor, getting somebody, by somebody I meant a child. So by this we mean child labor. Child labor or bonded labor is also a type of injuring some person. So when you beat a person, when you kill a person, or when you enslave a person, or when you get a child to work for you, this can be called as injuring a person. However, when you injure, when you harm a property of a person, a property belonging to some person, you destroy it, or you cause loss to that person, we can say that you have injured the property of that person. So, injuring a person or a property also comes under the definition of unlawful. Unlawful also includes defeating the provision of law, where the provision of law is defeated. Now, in this point, the law does not specifically prohibit you, but if that act is allowed, that will defeat the provisions of law. In this case, the law does not prohibit you, the law does not say you cannot do this. If you do this, it will be a crime. However, if the law allows also, then some other provision of law might get defeated. For example, if you have witnessed a murder and you are a witness of that, now the law does not tell you to go and report that murder. It's nowhere written. However, if the law allows this thing, if the law allows people to not inform when they witness a murder, now this will defeat the provisions of law. This will defeat some other provisions that the law has made regarding the witnesses, regarding the murder. Because in murder, a witness should come forth and present his case, present the whole scenario. But if it allows the witness to not to say anything, to not to present his case, what he had seen, then possibly the law will not be able to administer justice. So it will defeat the provision of law, it will defeat the purpose of law. So we can say that some things which are not prohibited by law, but if they are allowed, will defeat the provisions of law. These things are also included under the definition of unlawful. Things which are fraudulent, which involve some fraud or cheating, is also unlawful. It is included under the definition of unlawful. This is pretty much easy to understand. If you cheat, if you defraud somebody, that is unlawful. You cannot cheat anybody. You cannot do any fraud with anybody. Let's say you own a plot of land and you sell the same plot of land to 5 persons. That is a fraud. At the same time, you do not own any plot of land, yet you sell them, showing that you are the owner. This again would be a fraud, this again would be a cheating. So such contracts wherein you are defrauding people, wherein you are cheating people, will also be considered as unlawful. So Unlawful includes immoral things. Unlawful includes causing injury to person or property. Unlawful also includes some acts which are not prohibited by law, yet if they are allowed will defeat the provisions of law. Unlawful also includes fraudulent acts. Unlawful also includes forbidden acts. Acts which are expressly forbidden. Now, for example, if you do smuggling in goods, smuggling means illegally importing or exporting goods which are not allowed to be traded, or illegally importing or exporting goods without paying certain duties or taxes on them. You would have seen in various movies that gold is being smuggled, arms and ammunitions are being smuggled in India and out of India. Such contracts are unlawful because smuggling is expressly prohibited by law. Law says you cannot smuggle. Law says you cannot kill. So if you enter into contracts of killing somebody or anybody, such contract would be unlawful because law expressly says you cannot do that act. Law expressly says you cannot rob anybody. So if you enter into a contract with a thief of robbing a next person and sharing the whatever the things that have been robbed, such a contract will also be unlawful because such things, smuggling of goods, contracts of robbing someone, contracts of raping someone or killing someone, they are expressly prohibited by law. Law says you cannot do such acts, and if you do them, you will be doing something which is against law, so it will become unlawful, and such contracts will be void. Unlawful also includes defeating any rule in force. Now, there is a rule in India that you cannot conceal your income. Concealing means hiding. You cannot hide your income. Whatever income you get, you have to disclose it to the government and pay taxes on them. You cannot hide your income. And if you hide your income and do not disclose it so that you save tax on it, such a thing will be considered as unlawful, and such money becomes black money. So keeping black money is also unlawful. I've already explained you. And finally, we have agreements which are opposed to public policy. Agreements which are opposed to public policy means agreements which are opposed to public welfare or general benefit of the public. So all these 7 points, that is immoral, causing injury to person or property, defeating the provisions of law, defrauding someone, committing acts which are forbidden by law, defeating rule in force, and agreements opposed to public policy, all are considered under the definition of unlawful. All these acts are unlawful. And if you enter into agreements regarding any of these acts, let's say you enter into an agreement with a chartered accountant that he has to maintain and keep your accounts in such a way that your income is not disclosed, your income is hidden, so as to help you to evade taxes, to avoid paying taxes. And in return, you will give him, let's say, 50,000 rupees. If he saves your taxes of 2 lakhs, you will give him a fees of 50,000 rupees. Now, such a contract is unlawful, so it will not be enforced by law. Now, even if you do not pay that chartered accountant at 50,000 rupees, he won't be able to enforce this on you. He won't be able to go to the court of law and file a suit against you, because such an act will never be entertained by law, because it is unlawful. Please understand, something which is unlawful will never be upheld or supported by law. Same is the case with selling bogus plots of land. Same is the case with selling smuggled money. Let's say you uh, selling smuggled goods. Let's say you smuggle some goods, you export some goods to other country without bringing it to the notice of the government, without paying taxes on it. Or you have smuggled some prohibited goods. Let's say you have smuggled some arms. Now, if you do not get money in return, you cannot go to the court of law and say that you gave him banned goods and in return he did not pay you money. The law will not support you. Leave alone supporting you. If you go to the court of law, it will put you behind the bars for doing an illegal act. So you will never be able to enforce your right in such cases. Same is the case in renting your house to prostitute. This contract will never be upheld by the court of law. If you have rented your house to a prostitute, this contract becomes illegal at the very beginning. Now, even if the prostitute does not give you rent, the law will not support you. You cannot go to the court of law saying that you rented a house for prostitution and that prostitute is not paying you rent now. Leave alone helping you recover the land, recover the rent, the court will put you behind the bars for renting a house for prostitution. So, in these cases, you do not have a legal remedy because all these things are unlawful. Since they are unlawful, the contract becomes void. And once the contract becomes void, the rights or liabilities cannot be enforced in the court of law.